Hey guys, Bergs here from the Casual Athlete, and it's time for Zero Tackle Tips for round 25. First game of round 25 is at Leichhardt Oval, where the Tigers take on the Seagulls. Now, the Tigers have not beaten the Seagulls since 2019, and the Seagulls come into this one with Luke Brooks having his first fixture against his former team. In my opinion, it'll no doubt be a good homecoming for Luke Brooks, as I expect the Seagulls to get a win here. I do think the Tigers were spirited in last week's effort, but getting a second win in a row at this time of the season against one of the hottest teams in the league, call me crazy, but I don't think it happens again. Going to go the Seagulls here. First Friday night game is in Auckland for the Warriors' last home game of the season against the Bulldogs. Now, the Bulldogs beat the Warriors only a month ago with a Matt Burton field goal special. The Warriors, however, come into this one a little bit more full strength as Wade Egan comes back into the side, and the Dogs have named the same 17 that took on the Dolphins last week. For the Warriors, this is their last home game of the season, so their home fans will be wanting to see Sean Johnson off in a good way. I just feel like the same sort of thing with Manly, that the Dogs are one of the best consistent teams in the competition right now. And the Warriors really haven't been able to score a lot of points in recent times. And the Dogs, well, they have the best defense in the competition. I just don't see it going the way of the Warriors at the moment. I feel like the Dogs get a win here, but I expect it to be close once again, 1-12. The Dogs, they just keep charging towards these finals. The Broncos take on the Eels at Suncorp, and the Broncos come into this one very under strength as Reece Walsh has succumbed to that wrist injury, so he will not be playing as Tristan Saylor moves back to the fullback spot. For Parramatta, Jake Tungo makes way for Micah Sevo, who reclaims his spot on the wing. No doubt his try-saving tackle on Tedesco last week had something to do with that. I feel like this game is going to be a lot closer than what people think at the moment. Parramatta, yes, they were terrible in last week's effort, but they were quite good against Penrith at home. And for the Broncos, this week is do or die. They cannot lose this game and make the finals this year. They need to win out from this point of the season, and they still have a chance to make the top 8 despite all the criticisms and controversies that have gone on with them this year. I feel like the Broncos just pick up a win in this one. It's going to be very close, 1-12. Parramatta, they will hang in there in this game, but the Broncos, if they drop the ball and they have the defensive lapses they have had against some other teams in the comp this year, then they could probably kiss this finals race goodbye. But I just don't think Parramatta are going to have enough in the tank. Down to Canberra we go for the Raiders taking on the Panthers on Super Saturday. Now, the Raiders come into this one having not beaten the Panthers since 2019 and have definitely suffered one of the biggest significant drop offs in form towards this end of the season. For the Panthers, as we know, they will be without Nathan Cleary, so Jerome Luai steps back into that number 7 role with Brad Schneider coming into the 6 role. And on the Raiders side of things, Jordan Rapana comes back into the side at fullback as Ethan Strange has succumbed to a calf injury. Hopefully, the Raiders can perform a little bit better at home than they did last week. I just feel like the Panthers, they don't lose too many in a row, and I expect them to pick up a win here, 1-12. Luai has been outstanding at leading this Panthers team around the park when Cleary is not in the side, and he did come out and say that he is ready to step into those shoes, having had great performances in Origin this year as well. I expect the Panthers to go down to Canberra and get a nice tight win. Amy Park 5:30, the Storm will be taking on the Dolphins. Now, there was some talk about the Storm resting a couple of players in the last 3 rounds towards the end of this season. However, this week they have named a pretty full strength side from the looks of things. Now, the Dolphins didn't score a point in last week's second half against the Bulldogs, and this is also a tough matchup for them against the Storm, as the Storm have one of the best defenses in the competition as well. It's not that simple for me. I feel like the Storm get a win 1-12, but this Dolphins side is really going to fight right till the final whistle. They've really lost that energy that they had earlier in the season where they pushed teams all the way to the 80th minute. They play some good football in patches and they have some really bad defensive lapses at times and have also struggled to score points in the last couple of games. I just feel like the Storm are going to give up a little bit of a lead to start and will eventually run the Dolphins down in this game. Saturday night, Accor Stadium, the Rabbitohs take on the Knights, and the Rabbitohs, they've been hit by the injury bug, probably the worst out of any team this season. A lot of guys are out for the rest of the year, and that includes Cody Walker this week, as well as Dean Hawkins moves into the halfback role. They're really struggling to score points at the moment, only managed 16 against the Tigers last week. And for the Knights, they also have trouble scoring points. They have the worst attack in the competition, so this one could be a big grind fest. I feel like the Knights pick up a win here, 1-12, and will make it look a lot harder than it probably should be. Just the Rabbitohs, way too many injuries for me at the moment, and the Knights can consider themselves pretty lucky to be getting the Rabbitohs at this time in the season with all the outs that they do have. On Sunday, Cbus Super Stadium plays host to the Titans taking on the Roosters. Now, the Roosters are going for an impressive 11 in a row against the Titans, but the Titans get Beau Fermor back this week, and that is a massive in for them. For the Roosters, they get Nat Butcher back, and he comes straight into the lock role as Connor Watson went down with a head injury last week. The Titans have had a pretty big drop off in the last month or so. They were playing some pretty decent football before that point, but it's just fallen by the wayside, and they come up against a formidable opponent in the Roosters this week. They can score 30 plus points in any game against any opponent right now, I guess aside from the Panthers and the Storm, and I just feel like they get a big win here, 13 plus. Jared Hargraves comes back into the side, and you know that just adds a ton more experience in the charge towards these finals as well. I just feel like the Roosters get a big win here. Last game of the round is at Wynn Stadium, where the Dragons will be taking on the Sharks. Now, the Sharks have a very impressive record against the Dragons. They've won 8 in a row against them to this point. And for the Dragons, they got a very nice win last week, but it does continue that little streak that they're on where they win one game and lose one game. The Dragons really just can't find a vein of consistency this year. They tend to lose the games that they probably should win and then win the games that no one expects them to win. It's incredibly frustrating as a tipper, let's be completely honest. For the Sharks, I think everyone had them dead and buried when Nico Hines went down, but they've managed to get a couple of wins together and managed to stay in the top 4 race. No doubt they can put that down to some of the play of Daniel Atkinson and Braden Trindle, who comes back into the side this week. Sam Stonestreet has also been named on the wing for the injured Sione Katoa, and that will be a pretty underrated loss because Katoa is one of the best tackle breakers in the league and gets their sets off to a great start. I'm actually going to back the Dragons to break their little win-loss streak this week. I think they get a win here, 1-12, because they need to push in order to keep in the top 8 at the moment. I just feel like they're poised to take a win away from the Sharks, and what does help them is they are playing at Wynn Stadium, and it is one of their most favourite grounds to play at. But you've got to understand the record against the Sharks isn't great, so hopefully they can turn it around in this one. So that's it for the video this week, guys. Hopefully we get 8 out of 8 this week, and I'll catch you next week.